So life can throw up challenges, we all know this, but what is really interesting is how people handle these challenges. For some people, they dust themselves off and they try again, whereas others will think, well, this is just typical, the universe hates me. It's the same event, but two very different interpretations. Now, when I was doing my thesis around entrepreneurship as a facilitator for social mobility, I went looking for the usual variables like educational attainment and access to capital. But there was one variable that kept on cropping up in my data, and that was something called locus of control. Now, this was pretty surprising. It's very academic and abstract, but the more I learned about this, the more I started seeing it crop up everywhere. Everything from dating to health to politics, and in a really big way too. So I want to talk about this. Let's get to it. So firstly, let's just start with the basics. What is locus of control? Well, the term comes from Julian Rotter, and locus in Latin means place. So it's your place of control. And this can be internal or external. It essentially asks, where do you believe the cause of your outcomes live? If you're internal, you believe that your actions have influence over your outcomes. If you're external, you believe that your outcomes are driven by luck, fate, or systems outside of yourself. A kind of simple way to see this is, are you a driver of a car, or are you strapped in as a passenger on a roller coaster with very little to no influence over the direction that you go? Now, I want to be clear, this is not about ego, this is not about confidence or manifesting. It's more about agency. Do you believe that you have control over your outcomes? If the answer is yes, you do the thing. If you believe no, then you stop trying. So it's really important to know that this belief is learned. So for example, if you put effort into something and you get a positive outcome, your brain learns that my actions matter. Conversely, if you put effort into something and you don't get the desired outcome and this keeps on happening, your brain learns like, why bother? That's it. It's not magic, it's just pattern recognition. Why does locus of control predict so much? Well, because it changes what you attempt, and what you attempt compounds over time. Now, research is pretty clear that those with an internal locus of control tend to do better in their careers, they tend to do better at school and achieve higher levels of income. On top of this, I have my research where locus of control is a strong predictor into entrepreneurship and also achieving social mobility. But this extends into other areas as well, such as dating and health. So for example, if people feel that a healthy lifestyle contributes to their long-term health, they are more likely to do it. If they believe it's down to genetics and luck, they're less likely to. And also with dating as well, they are less likely to expect their soulmate to fall from the sky and land on their lap and actually put themselves out there and ask the person out. People with internal locus of control tend to be more self-driven, more proactive, more persistent. And whilst this doesn't guarantee success, it does increase the likelihood. So it's important to know that locus of control is not binary and it exists on a continuum. So no one is purely external, 100% external, 100% internal. There's a solid argument that you don't want to be on the extreme ends of either end of this, especially external, because that is just learned helplessness. But what is really interesting is that locus of control can vary across different domains. So for example, let's say at work you've been grafting hard and you've received a promotion, a pat on the back or a pay rise, you're going to be internal there. But let's say with dating, you've just been ghosted a lot, you've had a string of bad dates, you're going to be external there. Internal locus of control does not always equal discipline. It usually does, but it's not a guarantee. Take myself, for example. I'm very internal when it comes to my health, and I truly believe that sleep is super, super important. But does it mean that I go to bed on time? No. So there are a variety of factors that can influence locus of control, like trauma, chronic stress, but it can also vary across demographic groups and personality profiles. But for my content, I want to focus on three. And the first and most obvious for me is reinforcement. I've already mentioned this a few times in the video, but this one can operate on quite short time frames. So let's say, for example, if you've lost your job, you're applying for new roles, you're getting those rejection emails. there is a risk that your locus of control can shift to being external. It can push you in that direction if you're not careful. But the baseline locus of control can be ingrained all the way back in childhood. And this is where parenting styles come in. This topic I find absolutely fascinating, and I'll probably do a whole video on it at some point. But you have the two ends when it comes to parenting styles, like the two extremes. One, you've got the negligent parents, and then you've also got your overprotective and helicopter parents. Both of these can push towards an external locus of control. And finally, socioeconomic status can impact this in a very big way. If you're dealing with chronic instability and scarcity, this objectively limits control. And furthermore, if you don't feel that mobility is available to you, then the question is, why bother trying? And there's huge implications for this, by the way. So just a little anecdote. I grew up working class, and when I was younger, I felt that certain doors were not open to me, assuming I even knew the doors existed in the first place. So the problem is that this creates a feeling of, one, helplessness, but secondly, resentment towards the system. Now, I want to be clear that I'm not saying this doesn't have merit, but whilst this is very satisfying, it can create a feeling of paralysis. Now, for me, the biggest shift what actually came was just trying anyway. Didn't happen instantly, but over the years, compounding, etc., it can actually magnify. And this is my point, that these things, whilst they influence, they are not static and they are changeable with a bit of effort. So most commentators, when they're talking about this topic, say that internal is better, end of story. But let's be real about this. Life does throw out situations that are just pure bad luck. The problem is with strong internal locus of control is that people are more prone to self-blame and furthermore trying to control the uncontrollable. Not only is this exhausting, but it can actually lead to negative outcomes in cases. What I'm trying to say is external does have its place. So it can help protect self-worth when control is genuinely limited. And in my opinion, I don't think it's a bad idea to believe in good fortune and hope and faith, just to kind of keep your spirits up during difficult times. But there's this concept of bi-locality that states that locus of control can exist in two places at once. Now, I want to be clear, this is not, it usually comes under different terms in literature, but I prefer bi-locality because it's simple and less fluffy. But what it does, it allows you to balance personal responsibility whilst acknowledging external factors. It's kind of like the quote, control what you can, let go of what you can't. And there's a solid argument that this is even healthier than being purely internal. So I've kind of touched on this topic throughout this video, but can you shift your locus of control? Hell yes, but it does take a bit of time and a bit of effort. Now, cognitive behavioral therapy oftentimes deals with this topic about altering an individual's perceived controllability. So one of the first things you can do is actually list out two columns. In column one, list out what is in your control, like having a tough conversation, getting some rest, getting a new haircut. And in column two, list out the things that aren't in your control, such as the economy, the past, or I don't know, the Mercury retrograde. You take action on the first and just let go of the second. Secondly, provide evidence for reinforcement learning. So this doesn't have to be a major life pivot or a career change or whatever. Even small wins count. So this could be something simple as making your bed in the morning, drinking a litre of water, doing 5 press-ups. These micro experiments just prove to your nervous system that you're the one in charge. And over time, as I said, these things compound. So just to wrap this up, before behavior, there's belief. Before belief, there's reinforcement. And if you understand that, then you understand locus of control. So I'm doing a series of videos prior to my main content that just kind of touches on some of the foundational theory. Just saves me having to explain it in my deep dives. Now, my next one is on the difference between standard economics and behavioral economics and how they differ in their viewpoints. Just to be clear, economics is not necessarily just about money and finance. It's about choice. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. I don't know where to put this. It's a new channel. But also, if you did enjoy this video, a like is always appreciated. Thank you for watching.